Kevin Paulson, he's an Adventist pastor and apologist. On his website, AD Vindicate, he had this to say regarding the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. He says the new Speaker of the U.S. House claims to base his worldview on the Bible, but he needs to consider certain passages, including some from the lips of Christ himself, which contradicts his thinking regarding the relationship of church and state. When arraigned before Pontius Pilate, Jesus was accused by the Jewish leaders of saying that he himself is Christ a king. Pilate proceeded to take Jesus aside in private, asking him, "Art thou the king of the Jews?" Jesus responded, "My kingdom is not of this world." One congressional colleague has warned that the leadership of the new House Speaker might well demonstrate what theocracy looks like. Whether such will happen under the present speakership, we cannot say. But Seventh day Adventists know from the inspired writings, referring to Ellen White, that a man made attempt at theocracy is much in America's future. Close quote. So, Doug, Adventists will often point to any Christian bringing their worldview into the political sphere as going against Jesus' own teachings, with John 8 being the proof text that's often being thrown out as support. This, obviously, as you know, is not unique to them. But also, like I mentioned earlier, some Adventists will point to people like yourself as evidence that Protestants are working on establishing a theocracy, which is going to persecute them for going to church on Saturday. So, my question to you, what did Jesus mean when he said, "My kingdom is not of this world"? And should Christians avoid political involvement? If not, and they should be involved, should they shelve their worldview for a temporary, only while on the clock one?
Yeah, there are multiple issues here. I'll just start by saying if the Christian faith has nothing whatever to do with politics, then there's nothing wrong with establishing a theocracy, right? Basically, what I'm arguing is that we need to, uh, in our behavior as citizens, we we ought to stop doing things that make God angry. And what I'm talking about is killing babies. What I'm talking about is sodomite marriages. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about persecuting Seventh Day Adventists for worshiping on Saturday. That is the farthest thing from my intention. I am trying to stop the carnage. That's what I'm doing. And if they say, if their argument is, look, Jesus, uh, Jesus has no opinion about this. We want to argue for a strict separation of church and state. Okay, but is that the same thing as a strict separation of morality and state? What do they want? Do they want the state to behave morally or not?
They sure don't have an issue, parts of the second table being enforced legally, for example, murder.
Right,
They don't have any problem with that being legislated.
right. But there are and the second table of the law is not uh, worldview independent. So um, for the Christian, abortion is murder. For the secularist, abortion is simply removing a clump of cells. Now, in order to have abortion be against the law, you have to make a decision of about which worldview is going to govern that decision making process. And I'm simply saying we ought to have it be the true one and not a false one.
Yeah, and really that there's no neutrality.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to, is that everyone has a standpoint that they're coming from, and a lot of the thinking, I guess, in a lot of the modern day Christian thinking or professing Christian thinking even is, well, we have to shelve our worldview and we have to assume the worldview of, they're not directly saying this, but in essence, they are an application they are. We have to shelve our worldview and assume the worldview of the pagans
Right.
to play on their playing field and not let anything from our own worldview seep into all that, and that's just not really realistic.
Right. Now, let me quickly say something about the
Go ahead.
phrase, my kingdom is not of this world. What the Lord is saying there is the basis of his authority is not centered in this world, seated in this world. The monarch of this world is the Lord Jesus Christ, and he's at the right hand of the Father. It's not from this world. So the secular project that I'm opposing as a Christian nationalist is a the secular project wants to have the government of our nation be centered in this world. And I'm arguing that we need a transcendental authority, a transcendental right and wrong overarching all of us. We have to fight for a kingdom that's not of this world.